and welcome to episode 33. Does everything have to be in video now? Welcome to the Salty Writer, where we take you from first draft to first reader. I'm your host, Millie, and I write science fiction as Melissa L. Story and also contemporary romance as Lynn Story. I'm a novelist, reader, podcaster, and creative soul who loves talking about writing, books, publishing, and the winding road of the creative life. Whether you are a new writer or just beginning to find your voice, perhaps a more experienced writer still learning and growing, a devoted reader, or simply someone who loves a good story, I'm so glad you're here. Get comfy and join me for this week's episode. I don't have a personal update to share with you this week, but I do have a couple of cool things that I wanted to share. So if you're a fan of fantasy as a reader, I'd like for you to check out Story Bundle's offerings right now. They have partnered with the Sci-Fi Fantasy Writers of America and the Fantasy Bundle of Bundles, Wizards, Warlocks, and Soothsayers is curated by John Helfers and the SFWA. So again, if you are a reader of fantasy novels, and they've got really two specials running right now, but one of them, the bundle is super amazing, but both are fantasy oriented. You won't be disappointed with either one. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And if you're not familiar with Story Bundle, let me take a moment to explain a little bit about this wonderful site. And this is from their About tab on their website. Story Bundle is a way for people who love to read to discover quality indie written books by indie authors. You know how it's always so hard to find something good to read? Story Bundle hopes to solve that problem. We take a handful of books, anywhere from 6 to 9, and group them together to offer as a bundle. Then you, the reader, can take a look at the titles we've chosen and decide how much you want to pay. Think of us as a friend that scours independent books and undiscovered gems. When we bundle these titles together for one low price, you get to decide. Yeah, we mean it. You get to set the price that you want to pay. And I've used Story Bundle to download romance books, science fiction books, and also nonfiction books. They do occasionally offer books that are self-help book for writers, some how-to manuals and things like that. And I've gotten some really, really great deals off there. I think I even got a discount on a course one time from a Story Bundle deal. So definitely worth checking out. And again, I'll put the link in the show notes. So another cool thing I wanted to share with you that hit my inbox this week is BookBrush and the visual artist author life. And this kind of fits in with today's main topic. But BookBrush, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is an author-focused design tool that helps writers create marketing graphics, book covers, mockups, ads, videos, and other promotional materials. And I use BookBrush myself for marketing materials and promos and things like that, and make headers for book funnel deals, things like that. So, and some of my book covers I've used through BookBrush. And I usually import my own photos that I take myself and kind of manipulate things within BookBrush. So it's limited on how much you can manipulate. Sometimes you might have to go into something a little bit more robust. And then I put it into BookBrush to kind of finish it up and make sure I get the sizing right. But it's an awesome, awesome tool. And it does offer an annual subscription, so you don't have to pay monthly if you don't want to. So recently, the email I got is that they're leaning into character building and visual tools for authors, which immediately caught my attention. I'm not giving it a full review or any tutorials here because I haven't had a chance to really play with it yet. I did sign up. They're having a promotion right now and a half off your first month. So their add-ons sometimes their add-ons are subscription based on a monthly basis because you don't have to have them all the time. So I've signed up for the first month just to try it out and see if it's something that will be helpful to me and what I do. And I'll report back on that. But for now, I just want to let you know that if it's out there and it's available and it could be worth checking out. So, once upon a time, a writer created a character just by writing that character, and we gave them a name and backstory and personality and goals and the whole, character arc in the story. But apparently, writers cannot be, trusted with emotionally healthy fictional people. So our characters are kind of wounded people or people that have been through some stuff and they're coming out on the other side. Now, though, we do have a new option, a new depth to create our characters, and we can create an image. So there's a tool within BookBrush where you can build a visual mood around them, make a teaser for social media, turn them into a reader extra. You can use them in graphics for your newsletters or Patreon, Facebook, wherever your readers might find you. And honestly, a part of me really, really loves this. I love visual tools. And like I said, I do my own covers and I have lots of things that I save in my Pinterest for character inspiration. So I love anything that helps bring the fictional world into real life outside of the manuscript, especially writing science fiction, to be able to give readers a glimpse of the characters and the world building that lives inside my head. But it also raises a larger question that I'm talking about today. And that's, when does a tool help us connect with our readers? And when does it become one more thing standing between us and the book actually getting written? So, because this is our author life now, I mean, we write books and then we also have to think about the covers, the mock-ups, the graphics, the trailers, the character images, quote cards, behind the scenes posts, video clips, TikToks. Somewhere around midnight, we remember the poor characters still standing over there in chapter 3, tapping their foot, waiting for us to come back and finish the scene that we started. And I'm sure to the character, that probably feels a little rude that we just left them hanging. So I think BookBrush is a useful example of this tension that many indie authors are feeling right now. And these tools can be genuinely helpful. Don't get me wrong. I love my BookBrush tools and they can be fun. I love playing with them. And they can help us create professional looking materials without needing a whole design department or some kind of big budget to hire graphic artists to do all this work for us, and which frees up our time, but then it drains our wallets. So want to, especially when we're starting out, we want to save money where we can, especially, if you're going to focus your money on your editor and your book cover artist. And sometimes you can get a deal with your book cover artist that they'll do some promotional graphics for you. The one that I have for my first 3 science fiction books would do that as part of our contract. It included promotional material graphics, headers for Facebook and things like that. So you can always do those things, but again, you have to be willing to pay for them. Their time is valuable too. So if there's something that can help us take an image that we already have created and add it to some different backgrounds or other things for promotional materials, I mean, why not, right? So, but you have to decide, things are going to cost in 2 forms. You're either going to pay for it in money or you're going to pay for it in time. And the time piece is what I want to talk to you about today. So we don't have unlimited funds and we don't have unlimited time. And what time we do have is also split between the rest of our lives that we have to deal with every day and our writing time. So let's talk a little bit more today about the video podcast and the visual creator platforms that all seem to be putting a little pressure on everybody to create in every possible format. Maybe the real question isn't whether authors' tools are good or bad, but the question is whether these tools serve our story, or are these tools slowly becoming the story? So let's have our quick little existential crisis, and then let's talk about video. So I asked before, does everything have to be video now? And, it's a haunting question. We all get bombarded with things, for video. Like, does podcast need to be visual now too? What about your newsletter? Do you have to create artwork to support your story? And as creative people, we probably are driven or want to do those things. But then how much does that take away from our writing time, which is what we are first? We're writers first. So is it necessary that my microphone now have to have a camera attached to it as well? Do I have to put this podcast on YouTube in video format in addition to the audio? I mean, to me, the podcast is kind of audio first. That's kind of the point of it. I can listen to my favorite podcast while I'm doing other things, the laundry, dishes, walking the dog, doing my gardening, things of that nature, commuting. And those may be the same for you. But if I have to watch it, the video, to see the interaction between the podcast host and the guest or whatever else might be happening, that limits me as to when I can listen to a podcast, listen/watch, and how much time that I'm going to give over to that. And so if I'm very disciplined in my writing, that means to me, if I only have an option of watching a podcast and there isn't audio only, I'm probably not going to listen to that podcast anymore because I don't have time. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying realize if you choose to create a podcast and you want to do visuals, that's totally fine, but realize who your audience is and realize how much time that's going to take because there's an editing process that's different for the video than it is the audio. And believe me, I've been playing with the video, not for every episode, but I thought it might be fun every once in a while to put up a video, maybe not here with the podcast, but on my Patreon page or Substack or something like that, just as another touch point with readers, and it's a whole different set of editing that you need to do with that. And I try to do these podcasts more or less in one take. I mean, there's some small edits, but if I have to stop and hit pause and then try to come back an hour later and do this, that doesn't work for me. I end up redoing the whole thing anyway. So I tend to record this at night. Around 10 o'clock on Sunday nights is when I record this podcast for release on Tuesdays. And that is an example of the trade-off. I know how much time it's going to take, assuming all things go smoothly with recording this podcast. And that's time that I'm not writing. But it's one day. I schedule it. It's Sundays. And the other nights of the week at 10 o'clock, I'm writing. So, you have to prepare yourself. The other thing I do is my newsletters on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so Sunday, I also spend the daytime hours doing those because those I'm typing. And so if I get interrupted with those, it's okay. I can stop and come back to those. And so it's not the same kind of time commitment because I can do them here, do them there, and I can make notes. And, it's a form of writing. So I'm pretty proficient at that. And I can go in and piece that together pretty quickly. Because normally during the week, I've made little notes in my journal about something that I think would be interesting for the newsletter, much like I do for the podcast. Earlier this week, I got this email from BookBrush, and which I was really excited about immediately, signed up on the spot. But again, it's one of those things I need to have a few moments to sit down and play with it and find out what it's really about and what it can do and what it can't do. And is it going to be worth whatever time it takes to do it? I don't know what's involved yet. Is it something that's quick? Is it something that's going to take an hour? And, when am I going to give up for an hour to do that? So it's just something to think about. I'm not saying don't do any of these things. I'm just saying think about the cost. It's either going to be time or money, and in some cases, both. So it can be a little exhausting, And if you're an indie author, you're probably already feeling a little bit of this because, you've got to write your book. You've been told you need a newsletter. Those two things I think kind of go hand in hand. That's just me personally. But if you can reach your readers in another way other than newsletter, that's totally cool. You've probably been told you need a website and social media presence and, videos and clips and Substack and Patreon and buy me a coffee and all these different things. And all of those things take time. You have to take time out of your day to post to those locations and set up things for your readers who touch, your work there. So, it's something to consider. And in the middle of all that, you're supposed to be writing your novel. So also this week, there was a conversation in The Guardian about what podcasting may lose as it moves from a medium built for the ear toward one increasingly shaped for cameras. And this sort of added on to what I was already thinking was the article pointed to a larger shift happening across the industry, and podcasts are no longer just things we listen to while driving or, like I mentioned before, other household chores, where podcasts are actually becoming something that we watch for a lot of people, not me personally. But at the same time, the business world is also moving in that direction, with the Interactive Advertising Bureau announcing that its creator fronts, podcast upfront and play fronts, will be brought together this September, which is basically a signal that advertisers and platforms are thinking about creators, podcasters, gamers, audio and video as part of one interconnected marketplace. So think, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartMedia are all playing in this space, but in different ways. So I don't think this is just one small trend with podcasters adding video. I think it's a real shift. But the question again is for the smaller creators, should I make a video? Do I need to add video to my creative process? And again, only you can answer that question. That it's individual. It's up to you. It's how you feel comfortable. Some people feel comfortable in front of a camera. Some people don't. And, either one is perfectly fine. But when does expanding your creative business help your work, and when does it just simply create more work? I think that's the bigger question. And that's what I really think, we need to be thinking heavily on today. Video can certainly help people find you if they're visual learners and they're visual people. Clips, things like that can draw people to your website or to your book, wherever your book is posted. And it allows your personality, the personality of the writer, to come through in a different way. I mean, some of it certainly comes through in your voice in the book, but it comes through differently in visual. So there's pros and cons to it. And I'm not knocking the visual at all if that's your jam. If you can do that, if you want to do visual and lean into visual more than doing a newsletter, go for it. If your audience connects more visually, fabulous. Do that. I personally would not make it my first thing because you have no way of tracking who your viewers are, and it's hard to know if your marketing is hitting the target audience. With a newsletter, you can at least track emails. You know who your readers are. You can see when they click to open something that you've posted, could be a video, or when they unsubscribe. And so it helps you kind of refine who your audience is and what they like. If you're just putting a video out there on the web, you have no way to track that. You don't know who's clicked on it, if it led to a book sale or not. So I'm just saying I wouldn't make it my first thing for that reason, not because it's video. Unless there's a way, someone comes up with a way to track that video and clicks and likes and that sort of thing, that's great. But you won't own that information. That's going to come from whatever service provider that you are uploading your video to. So just something to consider. But again, if that's all okay with you, go for it. Absolutely, 100%. So again, there's totally nothing wrong with that. And every new format, again, comes with the cost that we've already talked about. And time and attention is probably more valuable than the actual money itself. And if you don't have a lot and you're not making a lot from your books, that might seem like it's backwards. But just think about how much time it takes to do something, especially when you're learning it. And is it worth it? Because that time that you're taking to learn something and do it and experiment with it is time that you're not writing. And that's true even for me, someone who has several books out already. It has refined the writing process down a little bit. Not saying it couldn't be better, but again, if I'm doing this podcast on Sundays, that means I'm not writing on Sundays. And that is true. I do not write on Sundays. I did get a little bit of editing done today, but the creative well of creating dialogue and scenes and characters does not happen on Sundays, just because the time commitment that recording this podcast takes. And I'm okay with that. That works for me. And that's totally fine. And that should be the same for you. Whatever you choose to do, as long as you're okay with it and you understand the trade offs, that's perfectly fine. But, again, I think it's something that you should go into with eyes wide open. One of the things that I've learned very quickly is that adding video changes the whole energy of the recording. When I record the audio, I can focus on the words, the pace, the warmth of the conversation, pauses that I may put into my speech just to help emphasize a point and how it shapes the episode. With a video, that attention shifts more outward. And that's no small change, at least not for me. Podcasting to me has always had a kind of intimacy because audio lets us be with people without requiring for us to look at them or them to have to look at us. It's just a quiet conversation, and the setting can be whatever the listener wants it to be. You can be curled up in your favorite chair with a cozy beverage, sitting on the beach, enjoying the sun. It can be anything. With video, you have to be somewhere where you can see your video. Seeing your video screen at the beach might be a little bit difficult, There might be some glare, you know. You can't sit and just relax and listen to the sound of my voice if you had to look at a video of me as well. So to me, that is the allure of the audio only podcast. Sometimes you kind of get comfortable with a particular voice, if you've heard it enough and it becomes familiar. And that's something that I love about podcast. You can, you know, think of it as riding along through your ordinary parts of your day with that voice in your head and in your ear. But I think a video would change that relationship. Not in a bad way, but it is going to be something that's different. And I think there's a reason that audio has this power. My voice in your ear feels close. It feels more personal, more companionable. At least I hope it does. You don't have to look at a screen, a monitor, your phone. You don't have to judge what's on my shelves in the background or why there's, suddenly a neon sign or a cat running past me or, something like that. And there's no distraction in the visual space, or in the audio space, there's the same distraction isn't there that you might see in a video. Because my office is doubling as Pearl's kitten nursery, so it's highly possible that she would pop up on the table in front of the camera, or she often now jumps up on the back of my chair and crawls over my shoulder. And if you're a cat person, that's probably okay. You probably enjoy it. If you're not, and you're really more focused on the conversation, that might be a distraction. If you could see her, it's probably bad enough when she does it now and I scream. So, but it's all kind of this magic that we create, and there's no weakness to having one or the other. You just have to decide what fits your style, what your listeners, your readers are going to connect with. We create images through language, but usually the reader completes that image. So, it's kind of like, you ever had a favorite book or series and you're very invested in a particular character, and then the movie comes out and the main character doesn't look anything like you had imagined they look in your head. And then sometimes, even how they're described in the book may describe them as having a certain color hair, and the actor in the movie may have blonde hair instead of brown hair or something. And you're left wondering why. Well, why was that change made? What's that about? So I think there's some magic into letting a listener or reader kind of complete the visual image. Some people do not look like what their voice sounds like, and that, can be shocking for some people. Some people don't care, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me, but again, I listen to podcasts for a certain reason because I can listen to them while I'm multitasking, and a video is whenever I have time to sit and actually watch a video, which is very few and far between. So if, and there are some podcasts I listen to that are available both ways. I can listen to it without on a platform like Spotify without having to watch it on YouTube, which is great. So I never watch it on YouTube. Never. I can't, and some people have it on YouTube without any video, and that's fine too. I just don't use video YouTube for podcast listening. I use other platforms, but I use YouTube for other things. But again, it's for something that's I need the visual form, and listen to a podcast is just not one of those things for me. So, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on the listener. It's going to depend on your style. It's going to depend on how much time you have. And if you're a full time writer and you have time to break up your week into certain, blocking off time to do certain tasks that way, that is awesome. More power to you. If you're a new writer and you're just trying to make time to write around, you know, family time and a job, whether it's a full time or a part time job, and all the other things that you have to do in life. Personally, I just would not recommend jumping into that world right now. I would stick to your book and your newsletter at the most, maybe a social media, but make it a social media platform you don't hate. Don't get on a social platform just because everyone else is on it. For example, I'm not on TikTok. I don't have anything against TikTok. I don't even have TikTok on my phone. I don't have a good reason why. It's just not something that appeals to me. There's so many other video platforms out there, Reels and Instagrams and, again, the aforementioned YouTube, that I don't know. I just have never had a need to watch YouTube, TikTok for anything. I don't know. So that's just not my platform. I don't know anything about it. I would struggle at uploading anything to it. And then, to be successful on TikTok, you have to post multiple times a day. And I seriously do not have that kind of time. I just don't. And if I did have that kind of time, I think I would be devoting it to something that's already in play. Now, I am on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube channel. Again, not the podcast isn't there, but it's there in audio only. You know, Patreon, Substack. But I didn't jump onto all of those things at once when I was first starting out. What I did was writing my book, I focused on finding the time to write my book. Then I focused on learning the platforms where I wanted to publish my book. And I learned one at a time. I didn't just jump on all of those at one time either. And then I started to learn the different. I was already on social media for personal, stuff, but then I started learning it for business purposes, for promoting my book. So, I have my personal Facebook page, but I also have my business Facebook page for Melissa L. Story and for Lynn's Story. Each pen name has their own Facebook page. Each pen name has its own X account. So, and Instagram too. So, and then that's the other thing too. If you have more than one pen name, that's just doubling your work. All of the things you do for one pen name, you have to do for the other. Now with my website, I've combined them, and my emails are semi-combined. So my Monday email goes out to everybody, regardless of what genre you read. My Thursday emails is science fiction only, but it's on a different platform. That's on Substack. The Monday one is I use MailerLite, and those folks have come to me because they have bought a book, downloaded a free short story or something of that nature. So that kind of leads into your reader magnets and things like that, which it's another discussion for another episode. But it kind of brings it home to the point is I own that information. I have those email addresses and I back them up. I download them and I back them up. And so if MailerLite went away, I still have those email addresses for those readers. If YouTube went away, I would not have any indication as to who listened to my podcast there. The few videos I do have up there, no clue who's watched them unless someone made a comment, but I don't have any email for them. They're not someone that I can reach out to and say, hey, this platform went away. You can now find me over here. So something to think about when you're setting up your visuals and your video and things like that. How can you capture any of that information? Or maybe you can't and you have to be comfortable and at peace with not being able to retain that information. Again, which is why I would say have a newsletter in addition to any and everything else that you do. So again, the distinction I keep coming back to is the machinery surrounding your creative work. And the machinery around your creative work is not the same as creative work. So don't let the machinery take over and take away from your creative work, your writing of your novel or your memoir or your children's book. Or even if, you're not a writer, if you're an artist, a musician, don't let the things to promote your music or your books your art take away from doing the books, the music, and the art, or you'll have nothing to have a video about. So don't get caught on the hamster wheel of chasing platforms instead of making real connections with your readers. If you have 10,000 readers, but no connection with them, you don't know that they're going to buy your book. They're just watching videos, things like that. You may or may not be making money from your books. But if you have 1,000 true fans and link to the book for that, in the show notes that are going to buy your book every time it comes out, that's way more valuable. At least if you're planning on making money from your books as a business. If you're just happy putting a book out into the world and you're not really concerned about making money from it enough to pay your bills and quit your day job, then no problem. Keep doing that. And that's fine. That is completely fine. There are just trade-offs for everything. And I just want you to understand what all of those are. So as these new trends come out, so the book brush thing this week, other shiny new toys kind of come out, just keep in mind that does it support your writing or does it interfere with your writing? And I'm all for new technology and gadgets. And so this is a lesson that I keep having to learn over and over again. A question that I have to keep asking myself when something new comes out. I have books, in more than one name. I have the Echoes of Eden series in my head, for the next 9 books. I have this podcast, my newsletter, future stories, day jobs, pets, gardening, life. And every time a new opportunity appears, I have to ask myself whether this fits in the season of which I'm actually writing. Do I have the time and the space, whether it's metaphorical space or actual space? Do I have a spotless office to turn the camera on for you to see what's behind me? Do I have technical support in case something goes wrong? So, these are all very valid questions and things that you should ask before you start with anything that is involved in the machinery of your business. And that's just, in addition to the brain space and your energy. So, but then I think, if you're good with your time and do a lot of time management, you can probably make most of these things work. But again, you're having to learn them. So in the beginning, it's going to take more time. Once you learn it and get it under control, then that time frame to do the thing, whether it's podcasting or the newsletter or the videos, will take less time once you get a hold of it. But you have to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. And you're an indie. You have total control over this. It's all up to you. There's nobody telling you have to spend X hours a week doing something that you don't want to do. And that includes the writing. I mean, I would think the writing would be an exception because most of us are here because we're writers or we want to be writers. And that is from a passion that you can't not write. There's just no scenario in your life where you would not find a way to write a few minutes a day. So what are you willing to do and what are you willing to encroach in on that time? And I'm very guarded with my writing time. It has to work and it has to prove that it will benefit my writing. So this podcast started in January, and I've already seen benefits from it, things that I can track. So interactions I've had, more engagement from readers than I had before. So, then that encourages me to keep doing this and that this wasn't a mistake to do. So, and hopefully that will only just get better and better. And if it doesn't, or if it becomes draining, or I don't have fun doing it anymore, then I will stop doing it, and that should be the way we treat everything in our lives. If it's not fun and it's taking up so much of our time, then should we really be doing it? Just a thought. Think about it. Think about it. But I know one thing I can't stop doing, even if I wanted to, and that's writing. I've always written as a child, different things. It wasn't always novels, but I was always writing something. And so I can never not be writing, but I could not do this podcast or I could not do social media, you know? I could stop that and focus my energy on something else, but it all works for me and I enjoy doing it. So I'm going to continue to do it. So we've talked about a lot of different things here and we've kind of gotten away from the video conversation, but for me, I think it's there as an option. There's no commandment written in stone that you have to do a video or any of the other things we talked about. I enjoy experimenting with video, but I haven't really done anything consistently with it. And it takes time. And so I have to, I'm careful when I do it. I don't always have time to do it. So videos on my Patreon page are a little bit sporadic. So I record when it makes sense for me and I use clips when I can. Those are shorter, a little bit easier. Hopefully this new bookbrush tool might help with some of that. That would be cool. It just depends on the learning curve for that. But whether someone hears it through earbuds or watches a clip online or a blog post, or finds my work through some future platform that is yet to appear and to complicate my life, the heart of all this is still the same. It's a conversation about writing, creativity, publishing, building your creative life, and it doesn't have to become something that I'm not. And that's the same for you. It's your writing life. It's whatever you want it to look like. You don't have to do any one thing just because it worked for someone else or someone else said, oh, you need to do this. This is the shiny new toy. No, you don't. I mean, you can try it if you want, but you don't have to. No one's making you, and don't let anyone make you. This life is your choice. Your freedom of choice. You do it the way you want to do it. And if you have time to do video, awesome. But it's going to be the talk of the town for a while. It's coming up in various, places right now. And so you're probably going to start hearing a little bit more about it. And people are probably going to say, you got to make a book trailer. And I've done that. It was fun to do. I did one and it was fun to do. I tried it on a free trial account to some software and um, you know, I might do it again, but I don't feel compelled to do it, and you shouldn't either. So if you do listen to podcast, or if you do have a podcast, or you're thinking about starting a podcast, I would start with audio first and master that before you get into the video. It's just a different animal. It's a different editing process, and it's different marketing. Well, where and are you going to be both audio and visual, or just audio, or just visual? I mean, you have to decide, and you have to decide what your readers and your listeners want. So, but more power to you. I wish you the best of luck in whichever road you travel in your creative journey. So thank you so much for spending time with me this week on The Salty Writer. This podcast is especially for new and aspiring writers, including those of you beginning later in life, maybe changing direction, starting again, or wondering why you waited so long. But you haven't. It's not too late, and stories don't expire just because you reached a certain birthday. Creative lives can begin at 50, 60, 70, and beyond, whether you're in process or just starting out and haven't written the first word yet. Everyone is welcome here. You can find my books written as Melissa L. Story and Lynn Story through my website at stitchesandstories.com. You're welcome to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, Patreon, Substack. You can find me on all of those places as Melissa L. Story. And Melissa is spelled Missa. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can subscribe through Patreon and Substack or visit Buy Me a Coffee /Melissa L. Story. Every subscription, share, review, and recommendation helps other writers find this little corner of the creative world. So all are appreciated. And if you'd like to reach out and have a conversation, my email address is Millie, Milly, at stitchesandstories.com. So until next time, keep writing and keep making room for the stories that call to you.